right. Welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is episode 18, and today we will be previewing week 3 of the NFL and arguably, I would say, and let me know if you agree, Slade, but the best week of college football, at least to date. It could be one of the best weeks of the whole season, minus rivalry week.
It's definitely the best of the 4 weeks so far. It may be the most impactful outside of like conference playoff time or conference championship time for who gets into the playoff. This is like your biggest non-conference matchups and then some of your ranked in-conference matchups.
Yeah. Yep. So, we'll quickly, I guess, recap where we are 6-pack wise. I did the math. It's on our spreadsheet on our Twitter, but we're up 0.9 units. So we are treading above water. But our pending plays, we have Gunnar Henderson, Rookie of the Year, plus 230. That's a lot. He's like minus 9,000. A couple Man City bets that are in good shape. Orioles to win the AL East for a unit. I think they're up 3.5 games. Our 2 football plays, regular season, the Bengals under 9, Patriots over 6.5. And then something to keep an eye on, I guess, in the coming weeks would be Mariners to win the AL. Right now, they're basically just fighting to get into that last wild card spot. So that's a half unit at 15-1. I'm not necessarily counting on that, but that'd be fun to root for them on the AL side.
That alone would give us a pretty big boost.
Yeah, plus 7.5 units would be nice. So hope you guys all tailed that because I'm pretty sure that's down to like plus 450, and it has been for a couple weeks now. But for this week's 6-pack, same as usual. I have 3 plays. Slade has 3 plays. Slade, you want to go ahead and start with your 3?
Yeah, so last week I won a teaser. It's been kind of my thing the last few weekends, so I'm just kind of riding with it again. Starting with college football, I did a 7-point teaser, and it comes out to plus 140. So it's going to be UNC to cover. So after the 7 points, it'll be UNC money line versus Pitt, Iowa Penn State under 47 points, and Iowa State Oklahoma State under 43 points. So as you can tell, the Iowa and Penn State point totals were super low to begin with. Iowa and Penn State was 40. Iowa State, Oklahoma State was somewhere around like 40 or 36, 37 range. So the Iowa-Penn State game, we can get into that one later, but I just don't see points coming very easily to the Hawks, and probably not to Penn State either. Penn State has the longest streak in FBS football right now for most 30-point games in a row. So we'll see if the Hawks can end that streak. But Iowa's only given up 24 points 3 times since the 2019 season kicked off. That's almost a 50-game sample size. So the spread of that game is like Iowa minus 15. So like basically Vegas is projecting like a 28-12 type of game. And of those games where Iowa gave, those 3 games where they gave up over 24, one of those was 27. All of Iowa's games last year, only one game went over 47. It was versus Ohio State. And we can get into how that got to be such a big total. But the Iowa State, Oklahoma State, this is like the lowest. I think I mentioned last week, this is like the lowest under in like Big 12 history. I took the under at 36.5. So if you don't want to play these as a teaser, just feel free to take UNC to cover, Iowa, Penn State under, Iowa State, Oklahoma State under. I feel good about all of them individually. That's why they're in this teaser. The wind in this Iowa State game is going to be 35 miles an hour. There is a tornado warning possible, potentially making this game have a delay in the middle of it. We'll see. Obviously, the weather can change, but you're taking a team that couldn't score against South Alabama and Oklahoma State last week against Iowa State, which is bottom 5 in yards per game. So I think you're going to see a really, really ugly football game between maybe 2 of the worst teams in the Big 12. So I'll just repeat that again. 7-point teaser, plus 140. UNC to cover versus Pitt. Pitt sucks. Their quarterback's banged up. North Carolina has Drake May. Iowa, Penn State under 47. Iowa State, Oklahoma State under 43. So on to my second play, another teaser, a 6-point teaser. So this one's going to be Oregon, Colorado under 76.5 points. Wisconsin is at plus 1.5 versus Purdue, and TCU money line versus SMU.
For someone that doesn't like TCU, you find a way to bet them an awful
You know,
lot.
I was going to come up with a nickname for this play. I couldn't think of it, but it's something like, it's kind of an emotional hedge game for me. Like if I lose this, if it feels like a win. Oh, also this is plus 150, so feels pretty good. If Oregon and Colorado goes over 76.5 points, that's an awesome game, I'm guessing. So that'll be fun. 2, if Wisconsin loses to Purdue, that's incredible for Iowa's Big Ten West chances, so I will not be sad. If TCU loses to SMU, that's just something that we can laugh about for like another couple of weeks. So really, it's like get plus 150, and it's like either I make money or or I'm happy. So either way, it feels like a win-win for me. But again, yeah, that's a 6-point teaser at plus 150.
So that Oregon Colorado game, why do you think it's going to go under? Which team do you think is not going to hold up their end of the bargain? Because I was looking at the team totals, and Oregon's like 45.5.
Yeah, it's like 45.5 and like 22 or something like that.
Yeah.
I just think that Colorado, I think Colorado could keep it within the 20 points, but it's going to be really hard to score 76 points in a college football game. Like when I was doing the math in my head, you're thinking that's like a 40 to 36 game is still a win for you. Like there's just, with the new clock rules, I think Oregon is going to score relatively easily. So if I had to take a team that I think is going to score on like the under, I think it would be Colorado. No Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders is going to have his work cut out for him. He really didn't go crazy until the fourth quarter last week. They only scored 24, 25 points against Colorado State. So thinking that they're going to score 40 against Oregon on the road feels like, without Travis Hunter, feels like it's a pretty big ask.
Yeah.
That game might need overtime for that to go over, honestly. Just, that's a lot of points.
Yeah. All right, cool. You got one more?
Yes, Pats. This is an easy, straight spread play. NFL, Pats minus 2.5 at the Jets. I don't think that this is, like I said, this is in New York, but I just don't think the crowd is going to be as lively as we saw week 1 without Rodgers after a beatdown last week versus Dallas. Zach Wilson is just, dude, he is so bad. I can't imagine him getting through this game with less than 2 interceptions. I mean, he threw 3 last week, and the Pats defense is pretty good. I think Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, their first round pick, is pretty good. He's a good looking dude, by the way, if you haven't seen him. But Pats minus 2.5. It's probably a low scoring game, but I just see the Pats winning that one. They have to, kind of. If you start 0-3, I just think Belichick's back's against the wall, and this is where he shines.
Yeah, I saw a stat that said if you start 0-3, dating back to 1979, only 6 teams in NFL history have made the playoffs. So it's possible, but you are digging yourself in a pretty big hole.
And a tough division, too.
Yeah. And we can talk a little bit later about the Chargers-Vikings because they're both 0-2 as well. So that's a must-win game for both sides. But okay, so that was your 3 plays. My 3, I'll just run through them real quick, and then when we break down football, I can talk a little bit more. My first one is Bills team total over 24.5. They play the Commanders, and I just think that their offense is going to be all systems go. I do think Washington's going to score a bit, so the Bills are going to need to score 25 points to win the game. Eric Bieniemy's got the Commanders' offense pretty solid, so I can see them getting in the high teens and the Bills getting in the upper 20s. Maybe a 28-17 sort of game. Next up, I have Lions laying the 3 against the Falcons. I don't really get why this is only 3 points. I don't care that they lost to the Seahawks last week. I don't care that they beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. I just think plain and simple, like their offense is better than the Falcons. And if they can, get 25 plus points. I don't see Desmond Ridder competing with that. So especially like if they get out to a 14-0 lead, I don't know how Desmond Ridder throws the ball and gets them back in it. If it is a close game and they can ride Bijan, then I guess that's a different story. But I don't see the game script going that way. And then my last one is Steelers +3 against the Raiders. +3 is a pretty good number. I've seen a lot of +2s out, 2.5s out there. So shop around for that. But I got that at -120. I just think the wrong team's favorite here. I'd actually be cool with the Steelers money line too. I don't really think both of these teams are that good, but the best unit is the Steelers defense, and it's not even close. I think they can force like 2 or 3 turnovers, and as long as Kenny Pickett doesn't, I guess, throw interceptions or fumble, then I think they should be in pretty good shape. So yeah, go ahead.
Not to sound like a follower, but I actually took the Bills, the Lions, and the Steelers to all cover straight up this week as well. We didn't coordinate this, but I have all 3 of those played already as well.
I don't think we've ever lost a bet when we've independently been on the same thing. So that's a good sign for the listeners.
Yeah, I have the Bills covering. I think you have the team total. That's like the only difference there, but I think those can kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, it correlates.
I think the Lions are my NFC North team, so I'm obviously riding with them. Falcons, they beat the Packers, but like I said, I think the Lions are better than the Packers, and I just don't think you can count on the thing that makes the difference between a good quarterback and an average quarterback is like consistency. Desmond Ridder had 1 good quarter. Expecting him to have 2 weeks in a row seems kind of lofty. And then, like you said, I just think the Steelers' defense is for real. T.J. Watt is one of the best players in the NFL, one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah, even though he went to Wisconsin. Wait, no, did he go to Wisconsin?
He did. Yeah, he was a tight end or something, and then they moved him to defense. The reason I don't probably have like an issue with him is when he was at Wisconsin, he really didn't put up like crazy numbers or anything because he had like an injury issue for like 2 years, and then like I said, he switched positions. So like he really just wasn't like a big thorn in Iowa's side while he was there, other than 1 year.
Yeah. And also, when he got picked at the end of the first round, everyone thought he was just picked because of his last name, which is probably partially true. But you're getting a guy with good work ethic and good character. And obviously that with like the bloodline of being a Watt, it can go a long way. So
and the Bosas.
And the Bosas, yeah. Okay. I was gonna make a Joey Bosa Trump joke, but I guess I'll just leave that. Okay. So let's get into football here. First game up, Chargers Vikings. Just run through my notes here. Battle of 0-2 teams. It opened at Pick'em, but Vikings are taking some money. They're sitting there at -1, -1.5. Must win for both teams. I'm leaning the Chargers. I think they get it done. They don't have Eckler though. I don't know if that makes a difference for you. I know you don't really believe in Kirk Cousins, but this is a noon game. It's not prime time.
Yeah, I took the Chargers +1. I think both teams need this. I think the Chargers need this. That's like a couple extra E's in there. They need this.
Yeah, maybe capitalized.
Yeah, you're 0-3. You're literally putting your coach on the hot seat. You might as well just hand the division to the Chiefs at that point. If you start off 0-3, looking like losing to teams like the Vikings.
At this point, you would assume the Chiefs are 2-0, but they're only 1-1. So you're
2-1.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying you're only 1 game back as long as you keep winning. So yeah. We'll get to the.
I just think they'll be 2 back if they lose this though. So that's why it kind of matters.
Yeah, and at that point, you're probably gonna have to sweep the Chiefs and win both. Which winning at home, I guess, is possible, but winning at Arrowhead as well is a tough task. I'm sure they'd be like 7-point favorite or underdogs in that game. So it looks like we're both leaning Chargers there. Next up at the noon slate, Titans against the Browns. Browns' first game without Nick Chubb, so they have to be dependent on DW4. I saw on Twitter today that Greg Cosell of NFL Film said Watson's mechanics are quote-unquote messy right now. My take on that is Tannehill's mechanics are apparently fine, but I think he sucks. I'd rather take Watson's poor mechanics over Tannehill's good mechanics. I don't know how the Titans score. I know you had the Titans over and all that nonsense you've been hyping up all year, but I still don't see it with this team. I think the
I
Browns defense can stop Tannehill.
I stayed away from the game. This is as a Titans over better. I don't need this one. This doesn't feel like a must. They're already ahead of schedule in some ways, so I don't need this one. I'm staying away from it. It's more of just kind of like I'm more of curious just what the Browns will look like without Chubb. I really wanted Jerome Ford off the waiver wire. I did not get him. I was one spot away in our fantasy league. I think he's going to get a lot of touches. Whether or not he's good, I guess I don't really know. But I don't know. I think the Titans can keep it close. Like you said, they just lack so much firepower that it's hard to envision them winning every single week. Like every week I think of them like losing, but they always end up playing in a really close game. So
Yeah, the Titans need to win in low scoring affairs, but the Browns offense hasn't proven that they can score consistently, so it is possible. So I didn't bet this game, but I would lean the Browns. Next up, Texans against the Jags. I personally think the Texans might be the worst team in the NFL. I know there's been some like projected mock drafts out there that have the Texans having the worst record, so their number one pick would go to the Cardinals, which unless Will Anderson becomes some like perennial all-star, I think they messed that up pretty bad.
that was at the time everyone knew that was kind of a dumb trade because it was like even if he does become a stud, the value just isn't there for that. I mean, he's
Yeah,
already going to be making a lot at where he was drafted. And then, yeah, the draft capital, they weren't going to be good this year anyway. So you're probably getting like one of his best seasons in a year that doesn't matter. Um, it just seemed like something that they did to kind of make
the
their
fans
new
happy.
coach, yeah,
Yeah,
and D'Amico Ryan happy. And it wasn't necessarily a decision made with a ton of cerebral thought, more of an emotional decision.
yeah.
Um, I am taking the Texans to cover. I have that. I've bet that at +9. I think the Jags win. I just think 9 points is a lot, and I think the Jags, still have some rust to work on. But I could see them winning, by 7 points pretty easily.
Yeah, I stayed away as well, but I think I'm gonna take the Jags in Survivor. Just because looking down the line, I think that there's not a lot of like the Chiefs. They still have some. They have a few easy games down the road, but honestly, not too many. It's more of I just trust the Chiefs to kind of beat anybody. The Dolphins, you could use them against the Broncos this week. They still play the Cardinals. Basically, if you still have the Cardinals on the schedule, I'm saving you in Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably take the Jags this week. Next up, we have Patriots at Jets. I know you selected this as one of your six pack. You got a lot of faith in the Patriots, or maybe more so of lack of faith in the Jets.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, so I don't really have any other notes on this game. I agree with you, but I do want to say a side note that I bet Christian Gonzalez to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I got that at 12-1. I had a rogue book, keep it 12-1 up, but FanDuel still has it up at 8 to 9-1, something along that range. I think it's plus 850. So he's a defensive back out of Oregon. He kind of slipped to the middle of the first round when some mocks had him going as high as top 5. So he's a plug and play guy apparently for Bill Belichick's defense, and which is saying a lot because Bill normally doesn't play rookies right away, and he's logged
Mm-hmm.
100% of snaps the first 2 games. So I think that's a pretty telling sign. He also against the Dolphins had an interception, a pass breakup, and 6 tackles. So if he keeps having games like that, and the Patriots, play at 500 ball or above, um, and have a top 5 defense, and he's cornerback 1 for them, I think that can go a long way. And we saw it last year with Sauce Gardner. I don't think he's as good as Sauce Gardner yet. I don't know if he ever will be, but Sauce won, so I don't see why Christian Gonzalez couldn't. So I like that at 12-1.
He was a good draft pick because he fell like out of the top 10 almost to the 20s. I mean, he was in the late teens, I think, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he was getting a lot of buzz at like 6. I think that's where most people had him mocked. It was like to the Raiders, and he ended up all the way in like the teens.
Yeah, some people thought the Lions as well, and the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs that early kind of screwed everything up, and one guy fell, and it was him. All right, next up, Saints Packers. My notes here, I said I lean the Saints, and it's mainly just because I don't trust Jordan Love to keep playing well without Christian Watson. I think you need your wide receiver one. I know he's only a second-year player, but I still think that goes a long way. Does help that Aaron Jones is coming back, but really, if anything in this game, I'm going to be leaning the under, but I'll probably stay away.
I took the Packers. I know that kind of goes against everything I've said because I've been on here saying I like the Saints defense a lot. I don't think Love is a franchise QB. I'll be more than happy if they want to pay him. I just think that the Saints offense has been really bad. Like that Panthers game was way closer than it should have been. Their week 1 game was closer than it should have been. They're just not that good of a team outside of their defense. Like they're another team that has to win ugly. I think they can definitely make Jordan Love have a rough day. I like the underplay. I just think 2 points basically feels like a money line to me. I took the Packers to cover because I didn't really see the difference between money line or the 2 points. I was like, well, screw it. I'll just take the 2 points and get better odds.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Next up, we have Broncos against the Dolphins. Broncos, this is their first road games. They're playing down in Miami in the 87-degree heat, which is quite different than their 2 games at home in the altitude. One stat that I saw, Russell Wilson in the second half has been horrible this year. In the first half, 23 of 27 for 279, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Whereas in the second half, and this is including his 50-yard Hail Mary at the end of last game, he was 22 of 39 for 206, that 1 Hail Mary touchdown and 1 interception. So if anything, if you don't really like anything in this game, I guess sidewise, I would say 1, tease the Dolphins down from -6.5 down to -0.5, and just basically get that money line there, or wait until halftime and bet the Dolphins to cover in the second half because I don't see the Broncos playing 4 quarters with them.
I think the Dolphins are significantly better. I think the Broncos play them closer than that you would think. The Broncos are the team that I really hope don't go into tank mode. I think the roster might be a little too talented in order to truly do that. It would have to be like a message from the top down that we're going to try to lose football games. And I don't think that's what Sean Payton signed up to do. But I think if there's a good fit for Caleb Williams, it might be the Broncos. Like I said, I just think that there's a chance they're probably drafting closer to 10 than 1, so it might not matter. That would be the team that I don't want sniffing around the top of the draft for a quarterback.
Well, they still have 2 more years of control with Russell Wilson. They have a potential out after the 2025 season, so they still have a $35 million cap hit next year and a $55 million cap, which is a $49.6 million dead cap hit next year or 2 years. So Sean Payton's going to have to deal with Russell Wilson for 2 more years. So you might as well try to win now.
You don't think they would just cut him and move on?
If they cut him next year, it's $85 million. If they cut him the year after, it's $49. I guess you could deal with a $49 million dead cap, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably won't matter. They're going to win enough games for this to not probably matter. I just think that would be a team that if I were Caleb Williams sitting there, I'd be like, the Broncos aren't a bad spot. But you know me, I hate watching the Broncos, so I won't watch this game. I hope the Dolphins win. I just don't. Another game I just don't really care about because I can't stand the Broncos.
Yeah, just because I have it up here, this is the Russell Wilson trade on March 16th, 2022. Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick got traded for Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, a 2023 first-round pick, which turned into Devin Witherspoon, a 2020 first-round pick, which turned into offensive lineman Charles Cross, a second-round pick, which turned into Derek Hall, and another second-round pick, and another 5th. So I don't know, the Seattle made out like bandits, and they obviously trust trust Geno Smith to be good enough. So they have the picks and these younger pieces to kind of build around.
Yeah, not to get too off topic, but early last September or late August last year, all the talk was Seattle did well in this trade, and now they tank for a QB. Remember that? Everyone was talking about the Seattle tanking for a QB, and
Yeah.
then Geno came out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. If they didn't invest in Geno Smith and they were bad this year and they hadn't paid him, they would have been another good team for a quarterback. But
yeah,
they didn't screw up, but it's just not going to happen now.
Yeah. Okay. Getting back on topic here. Next game up is Bills against Commanders. I have as one of the 6-pack plays Bills team total over 24.5. I think Josh Allen is going to be smart. He's going to throw it to Diggs and Gabe Davis. They're going to drive down the field. They'll get the 2 tight ends involved in Dawson Knox and Kincaid and kind of get that going. James Cook, their starting running back, his wife or his partner, I don't know if they're married, just had a baby, so that gives him a little bump. He's going to score a touchdown this weekend if you want to bet that. And also, just side note, I took the Bills to win the Super Bowl today at 10-1. I'm high on them. Slade was texting me before the show, talking trash about the Bills, so I had to bet them. So yeah, I just think that I think they end up beating the Commanders, like I said at the top of the show. But I do think the Commanders score a bit, so that's why I'm taking the Bills over.
It's kind of sad that I own you this much, that something I say can cause you to place a bet of that size on a team that probably isn't going to get the job done. So you just threw your money away. Now our listeners probably not going to take us as seriously, but it'll be fun to follow it.
Did I say how much I bet?
No, but I know because you sent me a screenshot.
Well, just for the listeners, it was not that much money. It's 2 digits and it starts with a 5 and ends with a 0. It's not that much money.
That's a lot of Chick-fil-A you just threw away.
All right. Next game up, Falcons Lions. You had the Lions -3, or excuse me, I had the Lions -3. I just think that, like I said, I don't think Desmond Ridder can score. I don't trust their offense. I will say that Amon-Ra St. Brown's questionable with a toe injury. So if you have Josh Reynolds on your fantasy team, fire him up. I think even with Amon-Ra, he's still a flex guy, but now he's like a legitimate wide receiver too. But the Lions also lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, one of their defensive backs with a torn pec. So that's not going to be easy to replace.
Lions are also without Montgomery this week, unless you already said that.
No, I forgot. So they'll be leaning on Jahmyr Gibbs a bit more. I think that's only a 2 or 3 week injury, if that. So yeah, they'll be okay long term. All right. Next up, your Ravens taking on the Colts in Baltimore.
I couldn't get myself to cover the 8 points. That's a lot. I think they're going to win. It's just the 8 points made me nervous. I don't know if that was factoring in the questions of Anthony Richardson's health. If Gardner and only Gardner Minshew play, I'll feel better about the Ravens. I stayed away from it. There's still 3 days till the game, so that can change. But at 8 points, that's too much for me. I'm staying away. But yes, I think the Ravens win, move to 3-0, and all of my Ravens futures feel great.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Next up, Panthers against Seahawks. This one got a little interesting at the beginning of this week just because Bryce Young, who missed practice the past 2 days, he was just declared out. So he's not able to suit up on Sunday, or I'm assuming he's not going to be able to. So they have Andy Dalton coming in. And I want to ask you, do you think Andy Dalton's better than like 5 or 6 starters in the NFL at this point? He's a high-end backup.
I was going to say, with how rough Bryce Young has looked, like when I saw he was out, that didn't really influence me from a betting standpoint either way. I didn't think that necessarily gave away points or helped them get points. Like, I just don't think that really moves the needle for me in terms of the spread. I think Seattle wins. Honestly, I don't like the kind of like if Bryce Young was playing, I kind of know what that looks like for them through 2 weeks. I almost felt better about it. Um, but yeah, Andy Dalton is going to go out there and just be like very game manager ish, which for the Panthers might not be the worst thing. I stayed away from this one, I think, but I think the Seahawks will win just out of talent.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks win too, and I wanted to make them my survivor play if Bryce Young played, but uh, with Andy Dalton starting, I don't really know how it's going to go. So skipping that, but it should be a pretty competitive game with probably the Seahawks pulling away in the second half. Speaking of competitive games, this is not one. Cowboys against Cardinals. Um, I have in my notes, can the Cowboys score 20 plus points in the game? Yes or no, Slade?
Will the Cowboys score 20?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then according to my analytics here, they're going to win by at least 20 because I have no idea how the Cardinals are going to score. Like, I think they could get a couple field goals, but I cannot imagine Josh Dobbs driving multiple times against this Cowboys defense and scoring. But I
Yeah.
mean, real quick though, Trevon Diggs, their starting cornerback, tore his ACL. Pro Bowl center Tyler Biadasz tweaked his hamstring, so they're a little beat up. But I mean, they still have Micah Parsons. They still have those good defenders there. So
I haven't bet this one either. I think the Cowboys are going to win. The 10 points is a lot. Those injuries do kind of suck a little bit, but I don't really know if that really changes my perspective of the Cowboys overall as a top 4 team in the NFL. I said that before the season. I've seen nothing through 2 weeks to change my mind. And in some ways, the Cardinals playing closer games week 1 and 2 than you would expect might work to their disadvantage this week. Maybe the Cowboys don't sleepwalk as much through this one and just try to like put it away by halftime so they don't have to stress in the fourth quarter.
yeah, that's a really good point. The Cardinals, they were competitive the first 2 weeks, but they banked 2 losses. Like they're 0-2. Congrats on your 2 moral victories, but they probably, I mean, they want to lose. They want a quarterback anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The only person mad about them being 0-2 is Kyler Murray. Okay. Real quick, side note, I bet Micah Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year today at plus 250. I threw 2 units on him to do that. I should have bet. I mean, in our preview podcast, I talked about him. I think it was like plus 650. How I wanted to bet him, and I just forgot to do it. So now I'm dumb, and I got him at plus 250. Currently on FanDuel, he's plus 195, getting pretty low. TJ Watts plus 380, Myles Garrett plus 1300, Nick Bosa 1700. Chris Jones is plus 1900 as he just returned to the Chiefs last week. I found a book that had him at 60 to 1. So I was like, I will throw $5 on that. So I have $5 to win 300 on Chris Jones. So I'm a Kansas City Chiefs defensive fan for the rest of the season.
I think if you're betting anybody but Parsons or Watt, you're kind of throwing your money away, or you're kind of hoping for an injury. So
yeah,
one of those two. I haven't bet anything on this. Those kind of awards are really tricky, in my opinion, especially defense. So I've stayed away from this one.
Yeah, last year Parsons was the favorite all year, and then like with 4 weeks left, Bosa just like straight up took it from him because he had several strip sacks on some big plays. So, if you don't like it at plus 195, or you're a little hesitant, I would just wait. I'm sure you can get it.
If he has one quiet game, like if they blow the Cardinals out and he has like doesn't even play the fourth quarter, like he maybe and some other guy like Myles Garrett has a big game or something, like he could easily get up to like plus 300 or 400 in like 1 week. Like these things are going to be so fluid.
Yeah,
might as well just wait.
Yep. Okay. Next up, Bears Chiefs. I have in my notes pretty quiet week for the Bears. Oh wait, they had a defensive coordinator resign. Justin Fields threw his coaching staff under the rug. He blamed his struggles on them. it was a bad week to be a Chicago Bears fan, which is funny because normally this stuff happens to the Browns. So seeing this kind of ineptitude and dysfunction with another team makes me feel a little bit better about mine.
Yeah, the defensive coordinator resigning. It was a little fishy. There was no reason given why he didn't travel with the team last week. So he basically resigned after game one, the Packers game, which that was, if you are in my group chats, you know that was one of the worst defensive performances ever. So I don't know if something was said to him, if the coaches got into it. I don't know. There was some rumors floating around of some really messed up stuff that he was involved with, like a raid on his house and all of this. And it's pretty sad when the Bears GM had to meet with the media and say that some of that didn't happen, or he didn't get into super specifics, but he was like, yeah, that's all made up. So to make matters worse, there was rumors going around of something like 100 times worse. Hopefully that's stuff's all not true. Fields, yeah, the coaching comments, I think he said something that got him applause from the whole city. Like everything I read was like people being like F yeah, Justin, like thank you for saying that. Um, so from like a fan perspective, I think it actually helped him, but from like a in the locker room thing, it's definitely a little weird. I think the relationship with Getsy is fine. The camera crew for ESPN was out at practice today, and they were like showing them like him throwing balls and stuff, and like Fields points at the camera, and then him and Getsy like run up to each other and hug. Like they're fine. He met with the media after that initial thing and like cleared things up. So I think probably a little frustration, maybe a little too honest. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last pod. He's definitely being told to like not run. Like there's definitely some things that are being coached out of his game that he does well. I'm sure they have a reason for it from like a development perspective or whatever, trying to work on things. But um, taking away something somebody does well doesn't usually bode well for them or provide other opportunities. So um, I think maybe he just lets it loose this week. I don't know if that means more turnovers or more big plays, but either way, he needs to get out of his own head.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well said. And even if he does get out of his own head, they are facing a tall task against the Chiefs this week. I think the
Yeah.
Chiefs are like 13-point favorites. They'll probably,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to cover that. They'll probably win by at least 10, though. It's probably not going to
Yeah.
be close.
If
Yeah.
you're going to bet it, I would maybe get it up to 14 so you can get the push. Um, I stayed away from it. The Bears are so bad that I could easily see the Chiefs just not taking this seriously and the Bears like playing like a fake close game. Like it's not actually close, but everyone who's like not watching the game is like, how is this only 10-3 at halftime? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the talent disparity is through the roof. Mahomes is going up against a practice squad secondary. And I'm not saying that because they're like not talented at all. It's like a mixture of a lack of talent with um, they're literally just that injured in the secondary. Mahomes is going to have an eternity back there. Um, this might be the easiest game he plays all year in terms of just like being able to stand in the pocket and throw it wherever he wants, whenever he wants.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, this is the Sunday night game. This is the Steelers against the Raiders. My 6-pack play was Steelers +3. I also mentioned I do like them money line. Like I said, the defense for the Steelers is the best unit on the field. Their offense, I don't feel very optimistic about them, which as a Browns fan, I'm happy about. Najee Harris looked really slow, couldn't get anything done on Monday night. Deontay Johnson is hurt like he always is. George Pickens, like he's just like a menace, like with his crazy one-handed catches and once he gets out in the open field, but like his separation rate with cornerbacks is like one of the worst in the NFL. So um, he's still a young player. It'll get better, but he just doesn't get open enough to make plays. And I think Kenny Pickett needs guys open. So it's basically just like shut down Fryermuth and you're in pretty good shape.
Outside of that
Um,
slant route last week from Pickett to Pickens,
yeah.
which is weird to say, but the Pickett to Pickens, That was like half of his total passing yards for the whole game. And it was really just like a 5-yard slant that he just sprinted straight for another 60 yards for a touchdown. Like,
Yeah.
I just really don't think Kenny Pickett's an NFL quarterback. He wasn't taken super high in the draft, so I think he kind of gets like a pass. I mean, he was late first round, so I think he kind of gets a pass from the scrutiny. If he were drafted in the top 10, like some of these other guys, I think we would probably be ripping on him a lot more. And probably same goes for Desmond Ridder too. We do rip him on here, but like he just doesn't have the same, like, I don't know if it's expectations or standards or like, I don't know. We just don't really hold him to the same standard as others.
Yeah, it's like we almost feel bad for them for some reason. Like, oh, they're trying their best.
Yeah, it's like neither guy came from like a big school or had a ton of success in college. It's just like I guess Ritter did for Cincinnati, but like they just weren't like studs at like the college level necessarily. They were kind of always in like that tier 2 or tier 3.
Yeah.
I think I almost like the under here as much as I like the Steelers to cover. Jimmy G is going to throw at least a pick or two. He's just going to have a classic Jimmy G game.
The problem is betting the under, then you're worried about a defensive touchdown the whole game.
That's what I was going to say. Is he probably throw a pick 6?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the same with that Jets-Patriots game. Like, I want to bet the under, but Zach Wilson's going to throw a pick at his own 20-yard line. And
and at 2,
it's good enough to push that in.
And especially for the Pats one, because that one's 2.5. So, like, you only need to win by a field goal. Whereas, like, this one would be a push at a field goal. So maybe if you want to buy it down, or I guess, they're +3. So they only just need to do it at a field goal. So, that's a good point.
All right, next up, we got 2 Monday night games. First one's Eagles against the Bucks. I think it's a 5-point. What is it?
It's 5. Baker's due, man.
Yeah,
Baker's due for one of his Baker performances.
Yeah, they're I have in my notes here, the internal pressure from the defensive line is going to be the death of him. They're going to be batting balls down. We've seen it too many times before. I don't think he's going to be able to do it against this
the
defense.
Internal clock, like the internal clock in his head is going to have to be sped up at like ×2 to go from what he faced week 2 to what he's facing now in week 3. So maybe he can flip a switch. I don't know. But I mean, he had guys wide open. He had all day. He's not going to have all day against the Eagles defense.
Yeah. And then, excuse me, last game, Rams-Bengals. Joe Burrow is, I don't know if he's listed as questionable or what's going on, but he has been practicing because of his calf. If he doesn't play, they have Jake Browning as their backup quarterback. I mean, I think the Rams can easily take care of that. If Joe Burrow does play, I still think the Rams keep it close. I'd lean the Rams +3. I'm staying away, but I don't know. I don't like we talked about it last episode. We're down on the Bengals. We took the under. It's not looking good.
I'm rooting for the Rams for a number of reasons. Obviously, it gets the Rams out of the QB sweepstakes. It helps my winning the Bengals or my Bengals missing the playoffs bet. I just think that it basically ends the Bengals season. Not officially. It just puts them in like the graveyard. Like, I don't know. If they lose this, they go home type situation. I would be pretty happy to see them done by like week 3 and still have a lot of tough games left on their schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. So notable teams who could go to 0-3, Bengals, Chargers, Vikings, and who's a third team we were just talking about? Oh, Patriots. Yeah. So
3 playoff teams and like the best team of our lifetime. So
yeah. But, okay, that's pretty much the NFL. Looking forward to that. We'll be posting the plays on Twitter. So if you miss anything or need to double check the prices before you submit the bets, just check out BetGPT podcast on Twitter. But all right, college football expert, you got 15 minutes. What you got?
Okay, I'm tweeting out all these plays the second we're off this pod. These are not 6-pack plays. Next week we'll recap how I did on them. I think last week I did 9. I think 9's kind of a good number. We'll see what I do. I I took Utah. So I guess we'll start with just kind of overall. You mentioned this is one of the biggest weeks in college football in terms of like the college football playoff implications. There is a lot of matchups of teams that are looking for like a signature win or to be in the driver's seat for their division. I'm going to end it with talking Iowa, but let's just start with the first game on Saturday at noon in Clemson. Florida State at Clemson being a day game is very weird to me, but it's +2. I I think Clemson is going to win.
Wow.
I have not bet that. I think you might see an over here. I can't remember what the total was, but Florida State's secondary has 0 NFL players in it. If Clemson is going to win this game, it's going to be because they're going to have to get a wide receiver to step up. That's been the downfall for them the last 2 or 3 years. They do not have NFL talent at wide receiver. I do think they're a better team than last year, despite that Duke loss. I think Duke is just good. I think we will look back at the end of the season and just say Duke is good. I did not factor that in when I took them for their win total at the beginning of the year, but Duke is probably going to be in that conversation for like the second or third best team in the ACC. The ACC is actually kind of good now because Miami might be legit too. But yeah, I think Clemson +2 would be my play if I had to do one. I know you're going to fade me here, so I just want to get that over with.
Yeah, I already bet 1 unit on Florida State to cover. I did hear Jordan Travis, Florida State's QB, could be a little beat up. So
That's the other good reason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be, I didn't, I just put 1 unit on it. If they lose, they lose. I didn't feel too strongly about it, but it is going to be a good game. And I was talking to you on the phone last Saturday, and I was like, I think we can get a good number on Clemson. I just assumed they would be like a touchdown underdog, and then I would have been all over that, but it's only 2.
I think a lot of people have the same thoughts that I have. I think a lot of people, it almost makes me nervous how trendy this pick is. Clemson's not even ranked, and they're only a 2-point underdog to the number 4 team in the country who has, the signature win or second best win of the college football season so far.
Yeah.
This is a big game for Cade Klubnik. If you had him as one of the long shots for the Heisman, it's probably dead, but this is a statement opportunity for him. This is huge for my Clemson over 9.5 play. Obviously, if you lose this, you have to run the table. Not saying that's impossible. They'll probably be favored in every game they play the rest of the way, but it just makes things a lot more difficult and a lot more stressful.
So your point real quick about it being a big Heisman weekend. It's a pretty big weekend all around with Sanders against Bo Nix in the Oregon-Colorado game. I know we've talked about that quite a bit already, but also probably the best game of the weekend for non-Iowa fans is Ohio State against Notre Dame. A lot of people are saying Sam Hartman, Notre Dame's quarterback, has a pretty good chance, especially if he goes out and throw 3 interceptions. I personally bet Ohio State money line -150. I just cannot imagine Notre Dame winning this game based off their history of always like losing these bigger-ish games. What's your take on the game, and do you think that Notre Dame can pull it off?
I agree with you on Ohio State, but it's mainly because of the history. And I actually mentioned to you guys last week, I don't know if that was on the record or off the record, but I think Sam Hartman is a sneaky good Heisman play because he has the path. He has maybe one of the clearest paths to do it. I'm not saying I think it's one of the most likely. I'm just saying when you have a showcase game against Notre Dame, you have a showcase game against Ohio State, and you get to face Caleb Williams head to head. His stats through 4 games, because he had the week 0, are pretty impeccable. I think he has the opportunity. Notre Dame is still a huge brand, so add all that up, you get something a little interesting there. We're going to learn a lot about both those teams. They really haven't been tested. I think Ohio State, it seems like their quarterback, Kyle McCord, is figuring it out. And I just, honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I'm almost leaning Notre Dame. It is in Notre Dame. They have the quarterback with more big game experience. He's probably like 4 years older than Kyle McCord on the other side. We know Notre Dame, if there's anything they can do, it's run the ball. Man, it's gonna be a fun one. It's at the same time as the Iowa game, so I'm probably gonna go dual screen for that one.
Yeah.
But in terms of betting, I think that one is one of the harder ones to pick. Um, but, I was thinking about this today too. Is it's like I know people who don't like college football always say like um, it's always the same teams, and it's like there's just eras. There's eras of college football teams. And like 7 years ago, remember when like Clemsoning was a thing because they always choked big
Yeah.
games, and it was like they just didn't have that elite talent, but they always had a good record, and they were kind of viewed as a fraud. What's the difference between Clemson and Notre Dame? I'm not saying Notre Dame is going to make that Clemson jump, but they could. You know what I mean? Like they have the quarterback now. Um, they're a bigger brand. They have way, way, way more advantages in terms of like winning and financial resources than Clemson. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility that someday Notre Dame is back as one of those premier 4 or 5 schools every year, um, back in the race. So that was just, I'm not saying they're going to do it just to clear the air, but I just think that like we get so caught up in like history, like Georgia 5 years ago we never would have been saying they're going to win 2 national titles. And before Kirby, like they were always like they hadn't won a title since like 1980. So
Yeah.
things change. They have a new second year coach, so we'll see. One I've already put a unit on is Utah. I got it at 4.5. It is bet up to 6 now with Cameron Rising.
Yeah, because Cam Rising is playing, correct? Or there's rumors that he is going to play.
It's very probable.
Okay. I heard he practiced. He practiced
yes.
all last week, but he was wearing a non-contact jersey. But
Yep.
he tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl, so he's not that far removed from it. So pretty impressive for him to come back.
Yeah, if he doesn't play this week, you have to imagine he'll be back early October probably. But yeah, it's Utah UCLA. It's in Utah. It's a 3:30 kickoff, so like that afternoon game. I just think Utah has that just like winning DNA. They just always seem to pull it out when you kind of doubt them. And if Cam Rising plays, that's a 1.5 point difference in my eyes because their backup has kind of struggled since that Florida game. So if you can, I got them at 4.5, so I feel great about it now being at 6. If you want to tease that down to a pick 'em, go for it. But that's number 11 versus number 22.
So yeah, and UCLA is starting a true freshman in Dante Moore, who has looked great. But I mean, Utah, that is probably a top 10 toughest place to play.
It's probably the best defense in the whole Pac-12, maybe outside of Oregon State.
Yeah, so we'll see if he plays well here. I mean, that's when kind of the draft buzz will start. Like, is he going to be a top 10 pick? In 2 or 3 years down the line. I guess it'd be 3 years down the line.
Yeah, he was an Oregon decommit. He flipped to UCLA on like signing day, so he was a 5-star recruit. Comes with all that hype. Be kind of cool to see him ball out and be like, see UCLA actually have like a true quarterback. Like if Caleb Williams and him were around the same age, that'd been a lot cooler. Just to have like 2 of the best in the country in the same city.
Yeah.
Coming to the Big Ten. But speaking of the Pac-12, I want to stay there for a second. I took Oregon State -3, 1 unit against Washington State. Washington State is number 21 right now. Oregon State is 14. Washington State has their signature win being pretty easy win against Wisconsin. Unfortunately, that doesn't count as a Big Ten loss for Wisconsin, so it doesn't really impact Iowa. But Washington State has a really good quarterback. That's really like they have some skill players, but like really what makes them go is their quarterback. I think Oregon State is better probably almost everywhere else but quarterback. They still have a really good running back. They still have a really good defense. I think this game is in Pullman, but I think Oregon State -3 is just a more talented team, and they're probably the more experienced team, having had success last year. Any thoughts there? Okay.
No, I like it. Aren't these the last 2 teams left in the Pac-12?
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of cool seeing them play so well. Like 2 teams that no one wants, and it's like they're both basically in the top 20.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of them will bounce after this game, but like I don't know, it'll be interesting. I think they're probably going to partner with like the Mountain West or something. They're actually talking of doing like a relegation style thing, like soccer. It's a proposal. It's not like it's a done deal or anything. It's just that would be so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for them for playing well this year, and it sucks that they are going to be at like a non-Power 5 school. Or conference? What do you guys call those? What's the thing?
G5.
G5, yes, the G5 schools. So.
I do have Oregon minus 20.5 versus Colorado. It's up to 21. So I like that I'm underneath that 3 touchdown number. I think Bo Nix is going to just go off. When I was on the 3 Points pod, Nicholas Baer gave Bo Nix as a Heisman pick. It was a long shot. And this is his opportunity to do it. He's going to put up numbers this week. I would be shocked if he doesn't. And this is going to be one of the most viewed games of the weekend. So it's a statement opportunity for him as well at 3:30. That game is in Eugene, loud environment. I think Oregon is just going to pummel them. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't enjoy it slightly just because I think the hype is getting a little undone.
Yeah.
But I hope it's just a good game regardless. And obviously I took the under 76.5 because I bet the 6 points up.
Sure.
Bama Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe coming back? It's a 6.5 point Bama's favorite?
Yeah, it's right around the touchdown. I think there's been too much talk in the media about Bama being done. I think last week was an anomaly. It was a weird game. There was a weather delay. Hard to get the guys hyped up with a backup QB. So now that their fearless leader, Jalen Milroe's back, I think that they're going to go ahead and roll this year. I think they will win this game. I think they will cover. And I think they're going to ultimately beat LSU and go to the championship game. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia. Jury's still out for me on that, but I'm high on Bama still.
Yeah, I think Bama's goal now after the last few weeks is just like, let's win the SEC West. That would be still pretty successful season because, like you said, they'd have to beat LSU and probably A&M, and then obviously this one on Saturday.
Yeah.
Man, Ole Miss leads like the SEC in sacks defensively, so like a good thing. They get after the quarterback. Bama's offensive line has gotten destroyed, to be quite honest, through 3 games. Even USF was just destroying them. I've gone back and forth on this one. I still have not made a pick. I've stayed away for now. I kind of just want to enjoy it, so maybe I won't make a pick. I don't know. We'll see. Anytime Lane Kiffin plays against Alabama, I feel like it's entertaining. I think Lane Kiffin's 0-4 against Saban since he's been at Ole Miss, but like every game except for one has been super close, like 1 possession games, and some weird like just like ugly games when those 2 teams play. And Kiffin will pull out all the stunts for this one. Like this one matters to him.
Yeah, and I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the next Bama head coach. I don't think it's going to be.
I was going to say this is a tryout for him.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of joking about that in some of the pods I've listened to this week. Like, this is a tryout for him. Mm-hmm. He was obviously the OC there, and he can recruit. Like, he's a good coach. He has Ole Miss in the top 20 every single year. Quarterbacks want to play for him. I could see it.
Yeah. All right. Don't keep us waiting anymore, man. Give us the Hawkeye Penn State breakdown.
Oh, man. I don't even know where to start.
Start with the winner.
Penn State. I took them before the season to win. I've said that if Iowa loses, it doesn't really mean a ton. To me, there's only 3 losing outcomes, I guess would be, a bunch of injuries, obviously, or you get absolutely blown out, or you lose in like a complete heartbreaker, or like one play screwed it all up type situation. If they play hard and you can take positives away from the performance, I will be content. that would set it. I mean, I think there's a real chance that we would get to play Penn State again in Indy in a neutral site game. So I don't think losing that game necessarily. I feel like you'd be stealing one more so than like dropping one that you were expecting. Obviously, you don't want to start 0-1 in Big Ten play. I think Iowa's defense is going to. They have to play better than they have the last 2 weeks. I think they will. I think this is one of those games where Iowa always, if you don't follow Iowa football, they always have one less defender in the box to stop the run than like the average team. That puts a lot of pressure on your defensive tackles to be involved in like the run game. Penn State always has NFL backs. I'm sure they do this year. I just don't think they're like at the Saquon Miles Sanders level when those two are together. If Iowa can stop the run, I think we have a legit chance of keeping this as a game. It's going to take preventing the big play. Of course, can't give up the big touchdown like they did to Western Michigan. But I feel better about it than I did a week ago, just because I rewatched their Illinois game from last week, Penn State. Penn State had 3 interceptions in the first quarter off Illinois. Drew Aller was only 16 of 33. I don't see Iowa turning the ball over 5 times in the first 2.5 quarters like Illinois did.
Yeah. This is Drew Aller's first big game, if you will. So we'll see how he responds. It's lucky for him it's at home, which helps a lot. But if they can force a turnover early and kind of rattle him and just stick around, anything can happen.
I think Iowa has to get out to a strong start, because if Iowa gets down like 14-0 and they start feeling pressured to throw the ball or make plays, I think that's when they get into trouble. But they're also just not a team that's built to sustain these long drives multiple times a game. So it's like they have to keep it close early. They have to, like I said, they're going to probably need a big special teams play, a big defensive play. Cooper DeJean has not had an interception yet. This might be his chance to kind of make a statement. The defense only has 3 sacks and 3 turnovers through 3 games. That is not very Iowa-like. That's going to have to change for them to win this game. The offensive line's they're going to have to run the ball. I think if the defense shows up the way I think it will, I think the game plan should just be to go in there and make it as ugly of a game as possible. It is going to be raining. It's probably going to be a wet, under the lights game, hideous, and that's what Iowa needs. They're not going to win by out-athleting or chucking the ball around against Penn State. It's just not going to happen. I don't want them to try to do that. I think just be content with punting and flipping the field when you have opportunities to do so.
Yeah, I think the weather's a big point. James Franklin is not happy that it's going to be a weather game, because that gives Iowa
an Iowa
advantage
advantage for sure.
Yeah.
Iowa's starting running back is out. Their backup running back is out. You're going to see LaShawn Williams, who is kind of a veteran. So he's he's not your most explosive back. He's your third string for a reason, but you can trust him. I am curious to see how many carries Kirk lets one of these true freshman running backs get, because if they fumble, they may never see the field again in their entire career. And then obviously losing your best offensive player and leading receiver, Luke Lachey, also a good blocker. It's going to be interesting. You're going to have to fill his spot with some guys that really just haven't proven it yet. So Penn State has maybe looked the best out of all the teams in the East, but we just haven't seen them have to prove it. So their ceiling is obviously super high, because Drew Aller has a chance to be like QB1 of his draft class, but he hasn't proven it yet. So this game could still go really either way. There's always that chance Penn State is just not as good as we think they are. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
It's early enough that we can convince ourselves that, right?
Well said. So that's the CBS night game, correct?
Yep. Iowa's wearing black pants as well. So a little different look. It's in whiteout, so they're wearing the black pants for the first time.
All right. Looking forward to it. Good deal.
A couple other quick ones I'm going to rattle off. I like Oklahoma to cover against Cincinnati. That's around like 13.5 or 14. I like Rutgers plus 24 at Michigan. Rutgers has actually been pretty decent, and Michigan has kind of been just sleepwalking so
Are you
far this year.
forgetting this is Jim Harbaugh's first game back?
That's a good point. It is a noon kick. It's a Rutgers. I'm sure the big house will be excited. It's just, I don't know. I just honestly don't think Rutgers is that. It's more of Rutgers than it is about Michigan, honestly. I think
Sure.
Rutgers is a competent football team. I had UNC Pittsburgh in the teaser. If UNC loses this game, I'll be absolutely shocked. I'm trying to think if there's really anything else like Big Ten wise, but I think those are all of the ranked games, at least that I have plays on. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami just beats the crap out of Temple. So I might put some money there. But yeah, I think I'm staying away from a lot of these other top 25 matchups like Texas and Baylor. I'm staying away. USC, Arizona State. You can't even bet USC money line. I know last week I talked about Arizona State's offense, or 2 days ago, I talked about their offense and how bad it was. They won't even let you bet on them money line. It's like a 40-point spread or something crazy for a
Jeez.
Pac-12 game.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
all right,
Yeah,
I'm going to tweet them out.
Oh, God.
I'll just say I'm going to tweet them out, so they'll be out there before kickoff for all of these.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Turn those notifications on so you can see them as soon as we post them, because these prices will be moving quite a bit. Because like I guess our style of betting is, yes, we want to bet things that kind of align with our thoughts and our handicap, but also we like to make plays where we know the line is going to move. If it's going to move a couple points, we want to get that closing line value. So.
Yep. Oh, and lastly, yes, I am taking Iowa plus 15. Pound it. They don't lose. I went through like 5 years. I went through like every Penn State Iowa matchup. This would have to be like an outlier performance for Iowa to lose by 3 scores. I even looked at like last year Ohio State when they gave up 54. Like Petrus turned the ball over 5 times. They were all on our side of the field. Like 13 points came with our defense getting a 3 and out. They were like, or 12 points. Like they were just like in field goal range, kicked a field goal. One, they started on the 15-yard line, touchdown. Like if they don't turn the ball over 5 times, it's going to be hard for anyone to score on Iowa that many times. I don't think Penn State's a huge big play team. I just think Iowa's going to show up defensively. So that's why I love the under. That's why I love plus 15.
Sounds good. I'll be watching. Yeah, I just wanted to end the show real quick by saying next week I'm going to be in Cincinnati on a work trip. So I'm going to have to record at the Embassy Suites by Hilton on next Monday or Tuesday, whenever we decide to throw another recap podcast out. But what I wanted to say is if our 6-pack goes 0-6, I will eat a bowl of Skyline chili on the video feed during the pod. So that would be worst case scenario. Obviously, do not want that to happen. But if you guys all lose money, at least you'd be able to see me try to suffer through that. So, yeah.
My pick's hoping to go 0-3 just to increase the chances of that.
I should say if we go 6-0, I'll at least try a bite of it. that'd be good motivation too.
If we go 6-0, I'll buy you like some sort of ice cream or some Ben and Jerry's while you're out there. I don't even know what Cincinnati has. They don't have probably any luxury dining options.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, we should definitely start rewarding ourselves on winning weeks. That'd be a nice little treat. But all right, thanks everybody. We appreciate you guys listening. Tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe to the pod, give us 5 stars, please. It goes a long way. Yeah, and if you don't have time to necessarily listen to the pod, feel free to throw on the YouTube and kind of have that on in the background as well. Yeah, we really appreciate it, and we will catch you guys next time. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.